also justified Russia's stance towards Crimea and eastern Ukraine since 2014 in the context of protecting Russian-speaking people there. The US technology giant Intel has made a public apology in China after it was attacked on social media for telling suppliers not to source material from Xinjiang. The chip maker said its decisions regarding Xinjiang followed restrictions imposed by the US and other governments prohibiting them from doing business in China's far west. The Australian authorities have agreed to pay more than $1 million to hundreds of Aboriginal people who said that a welfare scheme was racist, but the government did not admit it was at fault. A palace official in Benin has announced the death of the King of Abomey, whose predecessors ruled one of the most powerful kingdoms in West Africa, known as Dahomey. Dada Kefa Sagbaju Glele was 90 years old. He was last seen in public in November at a ceremony to mark the return by France of 26 royal treasures stolen by French troops in the 19th century. The Croatian government has approved a plan to pay citizens up to $30,000 if they return from abroad and set up a business. Croatia's population has been falling steadily since it joined the European Union in 2013. The I Choose Croatia scheme is an attempt to reverse the trend. And medical workers in the Philippines are rushing to vaccinate people affected by last week's super typhoon, amid fears that COVID cases will soar among the thousands living in temporary shelters. Typhoon Rai killed at least 375 people. BBC News.
Coming up next on NewsHour, Russia's President Vladimir Putin again demands a guarantee that NATO won't expand eastwards to include Ukraine. We'll get reaction to what Mr. Putin's been saying. But first we're going to hear from the Philippines in the aftermath of Super Typhoon Rai, which struck several islands last week. Hundreds of people have died and many more have lost their homes. Wind speeds of nearly 200 kilometres an hour flattened whole villages. The BBC's Howard Johnson has visited one of the worst affected areas, Siargao Island, and sent us this report.
I'm on a tricycle moto taxi moving across the devastated Siargao Island. By the roadside, building after building destroyed by the storm. Voted best island in Asia this year by Condé Nast, Siargao now resembles an apocalyptic mess.
So, an army truck has just gone past, and I'm standing on the main road to the airport here, and everywhere is complete carnage. You can see the violence of the storm because the trees have been snapped in half. You can see how the wood broke with such ferocity that splinters and shards of the wood are all over the floor. People here are looking bewildered. They're waiting for aid. They're standing around really with nothing much to do because their lives have been completely upended. They're using the fallen electricity lines to hang their clothes to dry. And earlier on, we did see a community centre where people were washing their clothes in the one area where the river is flowing and the water is clean. But the big concern here is that water supplies are running out fast.
In the town of General Luna, I'm greeted by long lines of people queuing for water. Prices for filtered bottled water have doubled in the last week, forcing the poor to find other sources. Nearby, I see a family drawing water from an old well, but the source isn't clean.
It's bad for the stomach, sir. But we don't have choice. We need to drink. We don't have safety water for drink.
With no electricity and communications, many are worried that the outside world don't know of their plight.
This is my house.
Jonathan Sear shows me to where his home and convenience store once stood.
I'm scared because I have children, and then my children is no more food, and then my house is broken for the typhoon. I don't know what happened, and I don't know what I'm going to start again my home. This is my daughter. I need help, people. I need your help.
At the island's badly damaged airport, aid is getting through, but in limited quantities. Alfredo Matagas, a local vice mayor, explains the authorities' predicament.
We are an island community, a geographically isolated and disadvantaged area, so transport towards our island for goods is very, very difficult.
That was local Vice Mayor Alfredo Matega sending that report by the BBC's Howard Johnson on Siargao Island in the Philippines. You're listening to NewsHour. You're listening to NewsHour live from the BBC in London. I'm James Menendez. We're going to head to Russia now in a rather unusual and certainly not very festive end-of-year tradition. President Putin's annual news conference. It goes on for hours and all sorts of subjects are covered, but there's really only one question on every